Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Today's conversation is a powerful reminder that leadership starts with how we take care of ourselves. My guest, Bija Bennett, has spent her career exploring connections between awareness, well-being, and performance. Her perspective will challenge your assumptions about grinding, work-life balance, and self-care. If you want to prevent burnout and increase your leadership effectiveness, you need to listen to this important episode. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Bija Bennett. Bija is an author, speaker, wellness pioneer, and strategist. She connects big ideas to real world change with a background spanning mind body health, global wellness, and creative production. She is a performer, disruptor, lifestyle guru, producer, and leader of life enhancing research. Today, she chairs the Bennett Family Award for collaboration in the science of wellness, helping shape a wellness paradigm for people, culture, and the planet. From building wellness programs for global brands to shaping conversations at the intersection of science, climate, aging, lifestyle, and emotional health, Bija unites a diverse network of partners and experts to help organizations maximize human well-being. And I'm excited to have her on the show to learn from her expertise. So, Bija, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, it's
Really
so great to meet you. And so I'm excited to talk about all the things you're working on. And I think all these things that you're working on really help us to become better leaders, to be able to be in leadership roles for the long run. Because I think too many leaders burn out, too many entrepreneurs get frustrated and they burn out. So we need to be able to take care of ourselves. And you have written some stuff about it. So I wanted to get you on the show to talk about it. But first of all, let's start off. You recently wrote an article for Rolling Stone, and it said how to put the self back in self-care. And I love that title. Tell us a little bit about that article and why you wrote it.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Well, this was an interesting kind of history about this. I've been in the wellness industry um, and the yoga world and Eastern ancient science and, bridging the modern science part together. But being in the wellness industry, there's always various tools and self-care practices that people give. But I realized I was on a panel in New York for Organic Spa magazine, and it was about self-care. And I realized that I think the main issue is that we've lost the self in self-care. Um, I'll explain that in a minute, but I think self-care is associated with different kinds of practices, possibly commercialized, misunderstood, and some people think of it as fads, or I don't have time to do whatever it is because it seems so complicated, or beauty products, calming bath bombs, all that. Um, but I think self-care is simple, but not that easy. So I
Yeah.
decided to write an article about that um, for Rolling Stone because I have the opportunity to work with Rolling Stone. And I mean, it's interesting because it's a pop culture magazine. I'm supposed to write on for corporations, for corporate work and leadership, and yet I'm a wellness author. So it's kind of connecting all of those things. And but at the basis, really, the self is about our own awareness of ourselves. And
Yeah.
if we're missing that, first of all, in leadership, um, that would be challenging. So I think that's the first step in almost anything in terms of what self-care is. So that was kind of the beginning of the article.
I
How
love
to
that.
how to find the self in and put it
Yeah.
back into self-care.
I love that. That makes so much sense. And, I mentioned before we, started this, recording is that I coach entrepreneurs, and one of my entrepreneurs was saying, I've been putting all my time and effort into this business. He took it over from his father. And so he's got a lot of challenges changing the culture and getting it the way he wants it. And he says, I feel like I don't take enough time for myself. And I just want to go for a long bike ride. And I was like, Go for a long bike ride. That's probably the most important thing you could do for your leadership is to take that time off and do something for yourself. Was that the right advice? Should I have
Oh,
said that to him?
absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Well, I can tell you one thing that I've noticed recently. That's pretty simple. It's even simpler than going to take a bike ride, but and I'm reaching for this. See this thing called a cell phone or all of our digital things that we have? Um, put it down
Hmm.
because analog wellness, interestingly, John, it was the number one trend from the Global Wellness Summit this year. That's that's moving away from or putting down our cell phone, going to take a walk, uh, anything. Well, the right bike ride is there. I even noticed, don't laugh, I go to bars because I'm alone a lot and I will go sit there and every single person is on their telephone.
Hmm.
No one is talking to anyone else. No one is paying attention. Uh, and I mean, I'm noticing how the bartender is working. I'm looking at people. I'm thinking of things. I recently I'm reading a book called Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, and he talks about boredom.
Hmm.
We don't allow ourselves to be bored. It puts us in an uncomfortable position. But gosh, that's the greatest thing to do because your mind can start thinking about things that need to be resolved or creative ideas. But if we default to looking at this phone, and I think it robs us from this opportunity to know who we are. I know that seems kind of abstract,
No,
perhaps.
no. That's exactly what I was talking with my friend is I said your best ideas likely will come from that bike ride. You need to unplug, get away from the digital, get away from the screen, and have some time alone with your thoughts. Because I think,
Right.
I'm 58, so I grew up without cell phones, and when we were bored, like we thought of things, we thought about like what we want to do with our life or how to solve a problem, or we didn't constantly entertain ourselves. And I think we sometimes fall victim. I love this idea of analog wellness. I wrote that down because I think it's really important, because I do think that we will quickly go to our phones for that dopamine hit, and we miss out on that, just being bored and thinking through some of the challenges and problems. Especially as leaders, we're dealing with a lot of things and we need time to think through it, right?
I agree. I mean, and that's not as more difficult than going to get the bike and, giving more time. On the other hand, when you do have time, like on a Sunday, uh, just, be there with yourself. It's
Hmm.
okay. This guy in the book is saying, we're so not used to seeing even our spouse or friends or whatever doing nothing. He was lying there on his bed and his wife came in and said, "Are you okay?" I mean, we're not used to this,
Yeah.
but gosh, I had the best time. It was a couple of Sundays ago. I mean, it was a while. No, but I didn't, I just sat there. Maybe I wrote something, maybe I read something, and then I had the best time with myself.
Hmm.
I mean, in some ways, it's a meditation of sorts. It's keeping yourself entertained. It's high level entertainment. That's what
Yeah.
meditation is anyway, and there are many different kinds. And one could just be being there and observing your thoughts,
Hmm.
of course. Um, but you were interestingly connecting with yourself, with the outside. We talk about nature. It's now being it's being prescribed by doctors to go
Hmm.
out and but that's not what's making us sick. It's our disconnection from something we always were connected to, but we've lost the connection. It's like we've
Yeah.
lost the self. We've lost the connection with the self. We need time to eavesdrop on nature, eavesdrop on ourselves. And boredom is not a bad thing. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been experimenting with that, but you're right. And also I think if we don't, if we're too busy to practice self-awareness, we're too busy. Because I mean, why are we doing this anyway?
Hmm.
Um, to me, life is about growing and to be more aware. is part of that process. I think all of the ancient practices were to bring more self-awareness. That was the goal. It wasn't to achieve a posture, or to be most flexible in a pose. Some of the yoga is completely misunderstood. I call myself a yoga activist because it's a deep, you can almost say it's a deep leadership tradition that's thousands of years old, that the yogis had this idea of the multidimensional person and developed practices and tools to develop our bodies, our physiology, our mind, our memory, our relationships, and then our relationship to something beyond us. That's
Mm,
all it is. Um, and yeah, I think deep leadership, it's almost like we're trying to find the self in leadership too.
mm,
Um, Perhaps self-leadership, we begin with self-awareness. And as we develop that, I believe we can become better leaders. Totally. I mean, I'm totally convinced because I have become a better leader knowing these, it's so simple. You bring your awareness to what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing. It takes practice. It certainly does. It's a learned process. But when do we do that? I actually, every time I get into an elevator, John, I close my eyes. Oh, now I'm remembering myself again. And then I get out
mm.
and I'm going to do what I have to do. But I'm better off when there are more moments like that, but they don't take long, even 10 seconds.
It's interesting you say that because it's one of the things I was talking to my friend about is the idea that like even like I have a couple places, like I run a manufacturing company. I have a couple places in my warehouse, and I have a couple places outside of my factory, which I go for quiet time. So I leave my office and I go to those places when I just need time to think. And I just sort of sit there and I think through because oftentimes as leaders we're facing a lot of different issues, whether they're people issues, strategy issues, competitor issues. We're facing tariffs and trade issues, and so we're facing all these things, and we're not superhuman. We are humans, and we're dealing with a lot of stressors.
That's
And I
right.
think for me, at least, taking time to go to these quiet places, even inside of my work, has helped me sort of think through some things. How am I feeling about this issue, right? What are my concerns? But if you don't take that time, if you're always just grinding on emails and on the phone constantly, you don't ever have that chance to sit there and reflect, right? Is that part of it?
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Um, I think the key, Deepak Chopra is a colleague of mine. I had the opportunity to work with him for many, many years, teaching at an Ayurvedic medical center outside of Boston. It was one of the first medical spas in the country. Um, he actually got me writing. He got me speaking, but he talks about, I mean, he actually helped me to make things more simple and accessible to people, some of these principles that seem complex. Um, but really, what we're doing, I think what you just said, is we have all of these problems. Some of them are unconscious, we don't realize that are
Mm,
bothering us.
yes.
So the answer may simply lie in the act of bringing our conscious awareness to what we're feeling about that and what we're thinking about it. Um, and to end suffering, really, we apply a conscious solution to an unconscious problem. Maybe the unconscious problem was we just got off the phone with someone and we're not feeling right, but maybe that comes out in the next email or when we bring it home. Sometimes we're not conscious of it, but when we are, we sit with it for a minute and just realize that we're feeling that way. Sometimes
Mm,
that's just the answer. We don't have to figure it out. We just focused attention on the self is what empowers us. And to me, this is how self-care becomes a spiritual practice.
that makes a lot of sense. I know for me, and I don't know if it makes sense or not, but I know if I'm struggling with a problem, in my conscious self. So I'm thinking through this problem and struggling. I can't seem to find an answer. Even when I was writing, my books, I was struggling with how do I try, write this chapter, how to, and like my when I'm really thinking about it, I can't solve it. When I've got it in my conscious brain, I can't solve it. But when I almost put it in the subconscious, I sleep on it,
Hmm.
right? And I just allow my subconscious to sort of work on this problem for me in the background. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I always find
Totally.
that if I do that, the next day I have the answer and it's like, and it's obvious, and I'll be in the shower and I'll be like, that's it. That's how I do it. Or that's how I solve it. And it's almost like I allow my subconscious to just play with this idea for a while because my conscious can't figure it out. Does that make any sense?
It totally makes sense. That happens to me all the time. Um, I, yes. And I don't even know how to describe that. That's where the boredom thing comes in. I don't actually
Mm,
like the word boredom, but it's unfocused attention. I've
unfocused.
been focused on how to focus my attention. How do I create this program to help someone focus? And then all of a sudden, this idea of unfocused attention kind of threw me, but it's not that complicated, but allowing ourselves the time, I, rather than reacting, if we can discipline ourselves to, I guess, create some space there, the only way I can think of it, um, to go take the walk. I mean, those are just things we can do to do that. Um, if you can sleep on it, sometimes I wake up though, worried about something.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't want to, that's it, to me, perhaps, or you ask for an answer. It's not necessarily a faith thing, but maybe you're asking your inner self for the answer and
Yeah.
then just move, then do something else and something will come. I honestly believe that. I think we're much stronger, more powerful. Our inner sense, our own consciousness is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And if we keep trying to force it and put it in a box or a structure, it's too all encompassing to be, you know, put in this way or to be controlled. So there are things that we can control or make choices and structure, but sometimes it's very important, just as important, to allow the mind to find the answer itself.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think actually in the yoga tradition, um, the word faith is called shraddha, and it's not about the faith of something else. It's about your faith in yourself.
Mm,
So I think what you just talked about is having faith that the answer will come. Maybe it won't, but you might think of something else, and that might be the solving thing. But in any case, we have to allow, I think it's important to allow our own, to trust our own inner self, perhaps, to help us make some
yeah.
of these choices. I mean, I had an urgent thing happen today when I'm working with three teams. One of them doesn't want to work with that other people. And I have to find a way not to react to that because I could have, and in the past I might have, to to reframe it, to think about it differently so that it's my job to problem solve this. I'm the leader of this. And I try to go back and outline where we've been, what we're doing, what we still need to do, and how we can move forward. And, if you want to do it that way, that's fine, but let's all talk about it. I think I didn't get a response yet, but I felt good about it. I felt good rather than reacting in the past I would have. So I
Yeah.
think as a leader, I'm learning myself how not to comply to someone else necessarily, but to respect them.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had to come back to myself to, so that was a form of self-care, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
that I took care of myself. I wasn't controlled by somebody else, but I respected them. And I think, for me, that was a really strong learning situation as a leader.
Yeah.
That helped very much.
I love what you're saying there because I know maybe when I was younger, very aggressive, corporate, moving up the chain, I was aggressive, going fast, and I would react to issues, and I would be emotional towards various issues because I was passionate about just so many different things. But I think as I've gotten older, I've learned to respond, not react. And I've learned to like I know like my the triggers and the things that bother me. So like I'll see an email response from somebody and I was like, I have a feeling I know the way this is going to be. So I'm not going to open that right now. I'm going to wait till I prepare myself because I know that I want to be in the right state of mind when I read this so I don't react, so I can respond, so I can take the time. So I do like the idea of that is a form of self-care. Like I know what that this likely is going to trigger me, so I'm going to put that at a time where I'm not vulnerable. I'm going to
Interesting.
open that email when I'm ready to open that email and have that discussion with that individual so that I'm in the right frame of mind. I think that is a form of self-care as well. It's just to
Yes.
control and know how you're going to react to things as well. Yeah.
Well, this is one of in the article in Rolling Stone, I give some steps. I'm
Mm,
gonna I'm gonna move forward from one, two, three, and four is what you did, which is personalization. You
yeah.
already know how you may or may not react or respond to something. So you've found your own techniques or way of doing it, which is to put it over here and wait and then open it up. That would be, I mean, everything has to be personalized. This is
Yeah.
why yoga, for example, don't just go to a class and jump around. It really, in the ancient tradition, it was one-on-one, a teacher to student. But each person is different. We're not the same. So to me, leadership skills, there can be generalized ones from the self-care perspective or how to find the self. Um, I the first step is self-awareness.
Mm,
Start small. Bring your attention to yourself. Pause. Recognize yourself. Know how you normally react. That's just an example. And how you might be better by waiting. But to stay aware, learn the skills of self-awareness. That's number one, because if that's self-care starts with knowing who you are. And the second is emotional engagement, understanding and improving your emotional engagement. There's nothing, I wrote a book called Emotional Yoga, How the Body Can Heal the Mind. That was 20 years ago. But it's full of practices to 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 understand, to acknowledge your emotions because they're very powerful. We don't have emotions just to get rid of them. The more we're aware of them, the more we can use them to become better leaders. As long
yes.
as we know what we're feeling and we bring our emotional experience into focus, we can then choose to respond versus react. Emotions are extraordinary. I
Yeah.
highly recommend everybody to explore their emotions. And then the next one is practice silence and rest. We were already talking about that.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
to how to how to go how to decide you're going to take the time and go take that bike ride or go lie down. Um, and then how to personalize it and repeat it over a period of time. It can become a habit, self-awareness. So those are the choices that the choices matter.
Yeah.
If we can maintain those and, they give shape and sustenance to our life over time. But I think these self-awareness, finding the self on a regular basis, um, is an extraordinary practice, no matter who you are and whatever stage of life you are. Um, and that's really my message, I
Yeah.
think, is to
Yeah.
find the self, find yourself, eavesdrop on yourself, learn more about yourself, be bored,
Yeah.
uh, because yourself is extraordinary and you can
Yeah.
learn a lot from yourself.
What would you say to like as I mentioned before, when I was younger, I would never take time off for myself. I was always like I was engaged in the mission. I was working hard to achieve a lot of different things. And so I would have said self-care is indulgent. I would say that taking time for myself is will hurt
Right.
my career, not help my career. So what do you say to leaders maybe that were like my former self, which is like go, 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 grind, 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 never stop, get up early, stay up late. What would you tell them as far as like why they need to and how important it is to just sort of take that time to again self-awareness, to self-care? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, science is proving now that if we keep pushing, 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 and going, 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 and not taking time, not sleeping well, not eating properly, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get anxious. You're going to be burned out. I mean, there are more of us are anxious, the mental health issues that are going on right now, loneliness, not just that, but um, high blood pressure. It's happened to me. And I'm in the wellness industry. I should know better. But try being on Zoom calls all day and teams that are you're working with. And I could be working all day long from the moment I wake up, and it's not healthy necessarily. I've had to have a doctor, two of them, tell me that I must take time for myself.
Hmm.
Um, I I think, I mean, the science has proven also that some of these things that might be woo-woo or whatever, such as, you know, meditation, yoga, breathing practices, showing gratitude, journaling, embracing spirituality, they're all substantiated. And they can help us professionally and personally. Um, but we need to prioritize it. Getting up and movement is like one of the top things now. And we're sitting. I do. That's the one thing for me. I To get up and walk around or any kind of movement is fantastic. Being out in the fresh air, vitamin D, all of this is excellent for us.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the younger me wasn't working this hard because I kind of switched things. I started meditating at a very young age. I became a teacher of meditation at a young age. I studied yoga and yoga philosophy. I worked at an Ayurvedic medical center. I worked with patients and things like that. And it was an easier time in some way. But now that I'm in the corporate world and understanding what leadership really is, it's harder
Hmm.
to do that. But I do understand the health ramifications of pushing myself too hard. I think that there was a way to find the balance. I never liked that word balance because it's a negotiation. There's
Hmm.
no one state of balance. I think at different points in our lives, we're perhaps, or different seasons. I mean, we're mutable beings and we need to adjust uh, at different times for ourselves. So I think that, different periods of life, it's that we need to respect. That's
Yeah.
really it.
I think too, if we're going to be, I think we can go for a while. Like we were saying earlier, you can work hard for a long time and maybe you can do okay in the short term, but in the long term, it's not going to be healthy for you. And our jobs as leaders is to be there for the long run. It's not
True.
just to, start a company in the first 9 months. It's to be there at the 10-year point where my company's almost 10 years old. I want to be there at the 10-year point. I want to be there at the 20-year point, right? So if I'm going to do that, I got to take care of myself, right? Because you're in it if you're it, and I think it's our responsibility as leaders and for our people that we take care of ourselves so we can be there when the crisis occurs or when the big problem occurs, that we're not overreacting and we're not emotional, is because we've taken care of ourselves and we're ready for what may come. We're prepared. We've taken care of ourselves to the point where we can take care of others. I think that's probably where I'm coming from.
I like that. I There was one other thing that's pretty powerful that I learned from the yoga tradition, strangely, because the word yoga means to connect. Yudge, it's a yoke. The yoke connected the oxen to the whatever it is, the wagon. That's the word Um, but I'm learning and I'm enjoying, maybe that's a better word, to connect more to others, to collaborate with others. That's been also something I've learned about leadership. Um, and I would leave the listeners with some of this as well, is find connections in unassuming places. I recently did a project. It's still going on. I'm I'm probably at liberty to say, but I was very connected with the BBC because the BBC is doing work with the Global Wellness Institute that I'm associated with in collaboration to create a series called In Pursuit of Wellness. They're also doing a series on climate, which is very important to all of us. And I am involved with a university here in Chicago in the certain science, physical sciences division, and climate is an important part of that. So I had an idea because of my opportunities to connect those two, totally unassuming, two different entities that never would have found one another. But I had an idea and I went for it. And now we're doing a documentary. It's part of a climate series, which you're going to see in November. And which is a really important thing to know, that there are answers, there are researchers. Connecting science and wellness is important to me.
Yeah.
We need to substantiate, because maybe many of us don't believe in these things, but when you see the science and what's happening now in the world in various different places, that human beings are able to change things, even the climate, boy, you realize how powerful we really are as not just individuals, but when we work together on a project or something. So
Yeah.
that's for me. It's another connecting with the self, connecting with others, connecting with the world, nature, climate, whatever it is, with our family. That's so important.
Yeah.
So I'm exploring myself what connection really means, what it
I
means
love
to connect.
I love that. I love that. I read somewhere someone said, I can't remember who made the quote, but it's like every relationship I go into, I want it to be a 50-year relationship. And so
Wow.
instead of saying like in being transactional in nature and everything you do, what about if you say, I want to build a 50-year relationship with everybody that you meet or key people that you meet, and then you start connecting people, as you said, and you collaboratively work on things that are like critical and important to you and to those others. I think that's a part of our job as leaders as well, too, is to connect with other people. And I think having those building relationships and building connections is a big part of leadership as well. So I do like that approach. I do like what you're saying about that. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, maybe as a corporate leader, perhaps in your work or business, you can also encourage others to connect with themselves. I just saw, I'm in Chicago, so Northwestern University has just built a beautiful, um, it's not a wellness center, but it's similar. It has offices and other things like that. But it's the first time doctors can actually come together and talk with each other because
Mm,
they created a space for it.
yeah.
And what comes from that, I mean, they're really happy because, they're each going through whatever they're going through, or they're becoming more social because there's a space for it. I think um, my father did the same, and he connected scientists from one university on this side of the world to another because he just had an idea. But now they're collaborating and discovering new things because they're in different areas. I just think it's important that we all not just connect with ourselves, but to just be open, I guess you could say, to connect. And perhaps that might be something that, as an employer, that you, as a self-care practice, almost is to have others in on your team to connect with one another. Um, to me, that it seems so simple, but I think you might see some creative things going on there and enhance the environment, uh, working environment. So as leaders, I think we have the opportunity to suggest that and encourage it in our workplaces because
I,
we have to. There's a lot going on right now in our country especially, that we need to stay together and learn from each other, uh,
I love
no
it.
matter what each of us believes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely love that. Such a great piece of advice. I think that we gain more through collaboration, working together. Finding the similarities and not the differences. I think it's a big part of what we need to do as leaders to help connect people.
Great.
So, such a powerful piece of advice. Bija, this has been a wonderful discussion. I really appreciate it. How can our listeners find out more about you and the work you do?
I can be reached on my website. First of all, it's Bija bijab.com. And I think Instagram is Bija B, which is my brand. And I'm a big LinkedIn person too. It's Bija Bennett. One word, Bijabennett. I'd love to connect with any of you and learn more about what you're doing and just have a conversation, email, phone call, anything. I love it. I like learning about what you're doing, and who knows? Perhaps we can help one another. So
I
that
love
would
it.
be a joy for me.
I love it. That's so great. And again, listeners, Bija is the expert here. We've got a chance to explore some of the things that she talked about with respect to, wellness, self-care, self-awareness. But we really scratched the surface. So if something in this discussion really sparks some interest, you want to find out more, the links are all in the show notes for all of Bija's resources. Reach out to her. She is the expert. She's going to help you along this journey. She's going to help you answer questions you might have. She may even suggest, how do you take some time off to be able to find yourself and to take care of yourself, which is very important. Leaders, don't neglect yourself. Very important. And that's why I wanted to have Bija on the show to remind us how important this is for us to be successful in our leadership role. So, Bija, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your knowledge on this important topic.
Thank you so much. This is so much fun, John. Thank you. And
Thank
thanks to
you.
everybody listening.
Thank you. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.